Good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. 93.9 Dublin South FM. Apna Radio is here until 4 o'clock. And I'm here. SIRAJ ZAIDI is here. Happy New Year. The first program of the year. And सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत प्यार भरा आदाब. Namaskar. Good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. Like everything else in life, things do get older, and then the rebirth and the new things happens, and the new year. That's debatable whose new year it is. It's a Gregorian calendar. It's not an Indian New Year because that's around Diwali. It's not a Muslim New Year. It's not a Jewish New Year. Whose New Year? Well, majority of the world, in fact. Rest of the world do celebrate New Year, and it's a Christian New Year, I suppose. But that's what it is, Gregorian calendar. But very welcome to the program. As I said, the first program of 2026. Yes, we did made a record level of programs last year in 2025, 52 episodes. Hopefully this year again, we will continue soldiering on with the fact that we'll try to inform you what's happening in the world, and we try to entertain you with our songs of the industry. So that is something that is what I do, and I love doing this because I'm here 30 odd years, in fact, broadcasting to our local broadcasting radio station. Time goes by very quickly, but I started, as I said, I gave you a recap a long time ago. But anyway, I'll tell you all about it, how it started and everything, and now still it's on air at Dublin South FM. 93.9 Dublin South FM, Apna Radio. Now, without further ado, I have the news of the week, and Charmaine Colvin is here. Charmaine's, you take it away. You're in the studio talking about the news of the week. Take it away.
And you are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. On India this week, 2 prominent student activists in India have been denied bail after being held in prison for more than 5 years without trial. India's Supreme Court on Monday rejected pleas of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, who were arrested after the 2020 Delhi riots. Police accused them of conspiracy to incite deadly clashes in the capital that killed 53 people, mostly Muslims. They were held under strict anti-terror laws that make bail difficult. They denied the charges and unsuccessfully applied for bail in courts over the years. The court, however, granted bail to 5 other activists who were also arrested in the same case. The riots occurred amid month-long protests against a citizenship law that the United Nations called fundamentally discriminatory. In its order on Monday morning, the 2-judge bench said the bail petitions of all the 7 accused had to be examined individually, since they were not on equal footing as regards culpability, reported legal website Bar and Bench. The judges said they were making a distinction between the charges that were levelled against Khalid and Imam from the others while denying them bail. The court added that the petitioners could apply for bail again only after 1 year. Legislators have passed a bill which aims to prevent hate speech and hate crimes that fuel communal tension or target individuals and groups. Hate speech is not new in India, but it has intensified in recent years as social media has spread and television channels amplify comments and reactions. A report last year found hate speech against minorities, mainly Muslims, rose 74% in 2024, peaking during the national elections. The Karnataka government, led by the Congress Party, says the move is necessary, arguing that hate speech can lead to real-life violence. But critics warn this could come at the cost of civil liberties and free speech. The Karnataka Hate Speech and Hate Crimes Prevention Bill 2025, which still needs the state governor's sign to become law, sets out how hate speech cases should be investigated and prosecuted. It defines hate speech as any expression which is made, published or circulated in public view, verbally, in print, television or social media, but it also defines a hate crime as the communication of hate speech, without specifying whether it needs to lead to violence or not. The bill gives the state government the power to order social media and digital platforms to take down content it deems hate speech, something only the federal government can do currently. India doesn't have a federal law against hate speech, but a number of provisions across laws prohibit certain forms of speech, writing and actions as exceptions to free speech. The BJP, which governs nationally but is in opposition in Karnataka, has said that bringing in a separate law is unnecessary. But Karnataka Home Minister G. Parameswara told the Assembly the bill would close loopholes in existing law, making hate speech and hate crimes non-bailable and giving the state wider powers to act. Critics, however, argue that because the first point of action is the police, they may exercise a wider discretion in deciding what qualifies as hate speech. Some argue the law's breadth and harsh penalties could push police to act on political signals rather than independent judgment. The survivor of a gang rape in the northern Indian state of Haryana has been discharged from hospital a week after her horrific assault. The 26-year-old mother of two was taken to hospital in Faridabad city on the morning of the 30th of December with serious head and facial injuries and several fractures. Her sister said she was out visiting a friend and was waiting for transport just after midnight when two men in an ambulance offered her a lift. They drove her to a deserted place where they raped her and then threw her out of the speeding vehicle. A police spokesman said they had acted swiftly and arrested the two men and seized the vehicle. The case has provoked anger and outrage in India and drawn comparisons with a horrific gang rape of a 23-year-old woman on a bus in Delhi in December 2012. That crime had made global headlines and led to huge protests in Delhi and several other cities and forced the government to introduce tough new anti-rape laws that included the death penalty for the most gruesome attacks. 4 men convicted of the gang rape and murder were hanged in 2020. One of the rapists died in prison while a juvenile was freed after spending time in a reform centre. Despite the heightened scrutiny of sexual crime since then, tens of thousands of rapes and sexual assaults continue to be reported every year. According to latest police records, 29,670 rapes and 2,796 attempted rapes were reported in 2023. In addition, police also recorded 849 cases of child rapes and 94 cases of attempted rapes of children. And finally, with millions of posts uploaded every day, India's social media churns out a viral moment almost on cue. Here are just a few that caught India's imagination. In May, Bollywood star Shah Rukh Khan attended his first ever Met Gala, and clips of him walking the red carpet got an ecstatic reception from fans worldwide. Khan arrived on the red carpet in an outfit created by Indian designer Sabyasachi Mukherjee, decked out with his own dandy cane, plenty of bling and sunglasses. SRK, as he is known to many fans, is one of the most iconic stars in the world's biggest film industry. Several fans on social media wondered why he hadn't been to the Met Gala earlier, but the appearance was better late than never. Of all the tunes you would expect to hear at the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey, a Bollywood song isn't on the list. That is why when a pipe band played Dhoom Machail to welcome the royal family at the event in March, the video went viral on Indian social media. The tune, originally composed by songwriter Pritam, is from the 2004 blockbuster film Dhoom. In November, India made history, defeating South Africa to clinch their first Women's World Cup win. When skipper Harmanpreet Kaur took the final catch as Deepti Sharma claimed the wicket of Nadine de Klerk, the roar that erupted at Mumbai's D.Y. Patil Stadium echoed across the country. A video of the moment shared by the ICC garnered nearly 90 million views and over 3 million likes on Instagram alone. In June, astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla became the first Indian ever to set foot on the International Space Station. Thousands watched from across the world as he piloted the Axiom Mission 4, which took off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. One video he shared about how to change a camera lens in zero gravity was watched more than 25 million times. And finally, Indian teenager Gukesh Dommaraju has been a rising star in the world of chess, especially after he became the youngest world champion last year. But one moment from his memorable year went viral across the world. In June, while playing at the Norway Chess 2025 tournament, he defeated world chess number 1 Magnus Carlsen. But the game ended with a sudden outburst from Carlsen, who struck the table with his fist before offering Gukesh a swift handshake and leaving the playing area. And that's all from me. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Thank you very much indeed, Charmaine, and what a wonderful news you have put together in the very first program of the 2026, covering the huge range of content from sports to the politics to the Bollywood, and indeed the entertainment industry. Talking about Shah Rukh Khan, I'm not going to talk about the ridiculous accusation which has been going around, and their intention was to give, and I'm not going to give any more wing to the kind of idiotic ideas that are floating around in a deep some other time, maybe not today, because today is full of material, full of information, and what's happening in the world is no sort of shortage of news, because what I'm in mood to talk about it, in fact, is the law of the universe and law of the world, in fact, international law, and the death of the international law, and what is the need for the international law, if there was one, or there is one need for that. Because obviously what I'm saying is that loudly, that everybody is talking about it, is Venezuela, Venezuela, Venezuela. And then Donald Trump has actually walked into the country, well, not physically himself, but his soldiers. And it is nothing new in the world that unilaterally a nation decides to sort of invade and grabs the president of that country. Elected president, sovereign state, no respect for all that, and he just goes there, sends his troops, and shuts shuts the government and takes over, and imprison him, handcuffed, for a crime that needed to be proven. What it means, he was a credible president up until last week, up until Christmas. And then the saber rattling which has been going on between Venezuela and America. And I think Sharad has covered quite a lot about it, and I'll see to it. But whatever reason is, people are, comparing it with the might is the right. If you have a military might, you can just do it. And not only Venezuela, he's now threatening to the Greenland for quite some time. What security? What kind of security he's talking about? And he's taken over militarily. He'll take over the Greenland. And the world will quietly knuckle under and watch his behavior, as it happened in Venezuela. Nobody has raised a voice. Not, when it comes to the democracy has become the joke in the world. There's no such thing like democracy. People are using the democracy for their own good, and turning the democracy over this head to make it a loud joke of this word, because there is no such thing like democracy, because you go in there and you take over the country, and you just basically decapitate the state, and and take over the resources. Here, the oil has always been the crunch. The Gulf War, the reason they went there in Iraq was the oil. The World Bank executive at the time, forgetting his name, but his name, he says that in a conference in Austria. In fact, he says that Paul Wolfowitz, that's what his name was, Paul Wolfowitz. And he says that the reason we made a decision to go into Iraq is because the country is rocking on the sea of oil. So it's their country, it's their oil. If it's rock on the sea of oil or whatever, it's their material, it's their resources. And if you dare to go there, your hands and feet will be burnt again. So they won't venture out in the Middle East anymore. They've done that, and they burnt themselves in a big way. So they have no stomach to go. So where they go? Neighboring country, Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the largest oil reserves of crude oil, and they have a close relationship with Iran. Yes, Iran has been very close ally with Venezuela when it comes to supplying crude oil through them to the rest of the world and all that. And of course, Russia as well. So all of that, it makes it much more, attractive for the United Nations to go there. United States, not nations. United Nations is not doing enough to actually curb this kind of activity and hold the U.S. Accountable for their actions. And I'm going to talk about it. Another issue that has also been floating around, and that a lie how the state media and the national media in India is actually spreading lies about issues which have absolutely nothing to do with the reality. Yet NDTV, the New Delhi television, as they call it, NDTV, has reported on the social media that Ayatollah Khamenei, with his 20 people close ally, is preparing a plan B to flee the country and the nations, because obviously the violence on the street is orchestrated by the foreign agents vis-a-vis the Israel, who's been actually behind that, with the help of India, in fact, to create a vacuum in their politics and all that. And they're shaking the foundation of the democratically elected state, respected by the majority of the nation's people. So this is something which they reported on a badly on the social media, which I've actually tried to contact some people to take few actions against that, because such actions should be challenged in court, and it should be first incident report, FIR, should be filed against those journalists who are propagating the propaganda machine, a national television. Up until now, Adani up until now, the national NDTV was run by Purna Roy Mukherjee, and then is being sold to Adani Group. Now, Adani owns it as a mouthpiece for the government and whatever they wanted to do. And the worst, because Adani has got now investment in Haifa, in Israel. So working hand in glove with Israel, they've been using that television channel for the billions of people around the world to create a false narrative. What it is a false narrative, because there's no such thing like Ayatollah Khamenei is a marja. It's got followers worldwide. He's not a political leader, just a political leader of a country called Iran, but it also is a spiritual leader of the world. Now, don't you dare to put your fingers over that country and the people and the system of marja taqleed, or marja taqleed means the people who follow the religious leader of that. Sentiments of millions of people's sentiments have been hurt by just issuing that. But people in India, and particularly the journalists in India, are afraid of raising their voices, talking about anything or doing anything about it, because they fear for their lives. Anyway, that is the state of affair, because that's what it is. It is something. Next week I'm going to talk about it, and I'll play a clip from a South Indian actor who's a very prolific actor. His name is Raj, something called Raj something, who's very much in controversy all the time, because he's talking very much in truth and very much in news, in fact. So therefore, I will be talking about that next week. But today I'm going to talk about this particular thing, which is basically is a nonsense, that you cannot actually use a state media, a state television, which is obviously privately owned by Mr. Adani himself, to defame and accuse and spread lies and rumors with the something which is totally non-acceptable. Anyway, Sharath has got to put together a lovely item about Venezuela, what Venezuela is about and how it happened and why Donald Trump has won there and all that. Few points, I'll discuss it once his clip will be finished, because I will comment then on few things, because obviously something that doesn't sit very happily with me on some comments. But there you go. Sit back, relax, and listen to Sharath's reaction.
Welcome to 2026, the new year and a new world order, which is so different and so opposite to the rule-based world order. Trump's takeover of Venezuela, toppling the government of Nicolas Maduro, has changed the entire dynamics of world's geopolitics. A powerful country can use its military might to enter a sovereign state and topple a government. Whether that government was good or bad but it was a democratic government, only because it was not complying to this strong-headed, powerful country. So Venezuela is the first case of its kind in this part of the century. Earlier it was Iraq's Saddam Hussein, who was the culprit of the manufactured and misinformed weapons of mass destruction. And that was, if you see, a rudimentary style takeover of a country, 18th century way of toppling a government or invading a country. Venezuela is the new age, digital age, efficient takeover by the US government. So what is it that is going to happen next? Will China take over Taiwan in the same way? Will Russia in the same way take over Ukraine? Will India have now new ambition over Bangladesh or any other neighbor, which it seems to be creating problems? Or is it giving a free will to Turkey to take over Cyprus? Now this is the bigger picture that is emerging from what has happened between US and Venezuela. In 1823, Monroe's Doctrine was enacted to protect the interest of US and to prevent the European powers to intervene or disrupt the US government. It was used in 1904 by Theodore Roosevelt in order to protect the US interest in Latin America. So a 2 centuries ago doctrine has now been used by Trump in order to protect the interest of the American people, but then it is snowballing into an ambition of the current US government, the current Trump government, and it has started to eye and target next Greenland. The temperature and the narrative around takeover of Greenland is catching heat, is catching fire, and it is the next hot topic for the takeover by the US government. According to the latest reports, they are also thinking of taking over the Greenland using military force. So it's the story of Venezuela all over again. How about taking back Panama Canal, like renaming Gulf of America? So all this is the new world order of 2026. But then people do argue that Venezuela and the Latin America in particular had been troubling the American society for very long due to illegal migration as well as the smuggling of drugs. And it has destroyed the fabric of the American society. It has destroyed the generations in America. So something was required to be done. And any crackdown internally on the drug lords was not making effect. And therefore, this action on Venezuela, especially earlier when the drug boats were being bombed and the smugglers were killed, it looks justified. All this looks sensible. And if the nation is strong, why not take such action in order to protect its self-interest? But then the overstepping of boundaries of international laws and violating the sovereignty of a country is not acceptable. In a one-off case, it looks justified. But then any kind of breach of UN charters that secures peace in nations of unequal strength, any breach, that is not acceptable. So there are 6 to 7 things that has happened with this event of the new year. International law to protect peace and honor the national boundaries have been trashed. Second, it has opened the floodgate to other superpowers like China and Russia to aggressively assert their power in countries like Taiwan and Ukraine respectively. And that's without impunity. That's without accountability. It allows the regional powers like Turkey and India to play what Trump did to Venezuela. So there is an ongoing tension between India and Bangladesh. So it makes a rightful case for Modi government to intervene in Bangladesh justifiably in order to protect the Hindu community there. Fourth, it has put the otherwise vocal leaders like the French Macron, British Starmer, the German Chancellor or the Indian Prime Minister Modi into some sort of a silence or let's say sort of a strategic hiding. Now this is disturbing because it reflects that all these leaders are under some kind of a fear. Although Putin and the Chinese Premier had spoken against the intervention of US in Venezuela, but all others who had some dealings with the US are silent. And this is not going to go well in the history when it comes to standing on the international law or standing on the principles of sovereignty. And sooner or later, these leaders have to talk against the US ambitions of Greenland, which is coming maybe by the time we are on air next week. So watch that space. Watch that silence. Fifth, it has promoted US as the center of the world again. And it is not for any other good reason, but more like a global bully. Earlier it was world's policeman. Now the definition of US has changed. And it has given a free hand to enter and violate an international boundary, a democratic country, as if there were no other institutions like International Court of Justice or International Criminal Court to charge the people involved in international trade of drugs and weapons. Sixth, it has changed the rule-based global order into power-based global order. Whosoever has a military might is now going to rule the world. Seventh, this action of US on Venezuela has created a threat which is going to persist long time into future for countries like Canada, because Trump has already spoken of Canada being the 51st state of United States of America. So Canada is under threat, and so is Cuba and Mexico. Canada is under threat because it seems to be resisting the US trade policies. Cuba and Mexico obviously for their drugs and illegal migration policies. Eighth, all this is to fight against drugs and to get oil in bonus. This is debatable. But what is being sold to the Americans is the justification of entering Venezuela. Earlier it was Iraq for weapons of mass destruction, protecting the entire humanity. Now it is protecting the Americans from the menace of drugs. So there is a debate, there is a discussion of this narrative, but then in the process, the Americans are getting oil in bonus. So with all these fast-moving geopolitical situation around, and it is going to change a lot in coming weeks and months, I leave you until next week to catch up with this new world order of 2026. So stay safe, stay informed, and dutifully ask questions. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM. You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read, or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE. 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Welcome back to the programme. Indeed, this is Dublin South FM 93.9 and I'm here until 4 o'clock. Hopefully you'll stay with me as well. Just picking a few points from Sharad's wonderful coverage and a quite in-depth coverage of the New World Order. Is it a New World Order? We've heard about this phrase before when Bush started, either you are with me or you are against me when it comes to the unilaterally going into Iraq by taking over the reserve oil of Iraq under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction, which was obviously not found. Now, at that time, it was a double-edged sword. The world didn't mind because the Saddam was a brutal dictator and he was killing his own people and all that. So world did criticize too much about it. But now this particular individual, Maduro, is he's reasonably okay man. He's as I said, a dictator. Is not a dictator, an elected president and all that. Removing that, Mossad and Mossadegh was another. Sorry, the word I was trying to actually get was Iranian elected president who was being removed, by force and by coup. Of the CIA at that time, before Imam Khomeini took power in the 79 in Iran. Mossadegh was, again, the history, if you look into the history pages, you'll find that was a demo. So this is nothing new, what Trump is doing. And despicably, the other day on the screen, he's dancing, he's dancing and he's saying, oh, I'm very jubilant and I'm very great. So the accuse and the pretext is drugs. Drugs, any country and every country has got a freedom of what they wanted to do. If they are exporting drugs, it's your job to protect it, to check it, and to stop it, rather than to go and take over the country and are going to run the country. So the next thing what they're going to do is to send some oil magnate, oil traders like Halliburton and all those guys over to Venezuela to control their oil. That's not acceptable. By that definition, they can come over here and by force and take over a dairy product of Ireland. Kerrygold will be, is revered in America, by the way. Can be taken over and Kerry from the farmers, and there is no rule of law left in this country. Then, in the world, in fact, in America. And so, fear for any country can be invaded by the Americans by force, and commandos would go, the army will go and capture the whoever is the most prominent person is in charge of that country and take over their resources. So by that definition, the world should raise the voice against Donald Trump, against the United Nations bully tactic. Now, the point again, what Shahid has mentioned, is that this gives a confidence to people like Narendra Modi, who has ambition to take over Bangladesh. Hello. On the pretext that Hindus have been killed in Bangladesh. Now, that's a rubbish ideology I've ever heard about it. But if you dare to take over Bangladesh, perhaps you want to take over Calcutta in the next election. That's the ploy. And the Bengali issue has again been raised in the context of what I was talking about earlier on, that Shah Rukh Khan has been accused for being a traitor just because he's bought a Bangladeshi cricketer in his IPL team, Knight Rider. Now, so everything else is focused now. They have Operation Sindoor is shifted now towards Bangladesh. It's no longer Pakistan, because Pakistan has got a very strong weapons and the military power that the Chinese, jets and the Chinese missiles that they have. And in a 3 to 4 days war, India has realized that Pakistan is not that weak state that they can actually have a cakewalk there. So who's the target? Bangladesh. Again, Muslim country, doing very well economically. And Sheikh Hasina is sitting in India. Bangladeshis are different people than Bangladeshi Muslims are very different people than the Bangladeshis, in India or in Pakistan. But there are hardly any Pakistan anyway. There had been a lovely movie that I've released years and years ago, in which the 1971 war with Bangladesh was being covered. Anyway, the point about that is that this is if this is going to be the new world order, by this definition, anybody and everybody has a right to take over anybody's country, anybody's resources, as they like, at their whims, such as they are talking about now, Greenland. But what Europe is going to do about it, what Denmark is going to do about it, if that is the case, the Denmark is categorically has said that, whatever the reason, maybe there are weak people, maybe they don't have, maybe the NATO should be protecting Greenland, because this is what it is. And if there's a confrontation between NATO and the Americans, which they wouldn't do that in their right mind, that will be a catastrophic, because we have seen it in Ukraine. Nothing has happened. Europe has handed out millions and millions and millions, 125 million recently. Zelensky comes in and walks away with that sort of money. So war, what is war? War is the game. It's a financial gain and a game between the countries for resources and money. That's all it is. Nothing to do with people, nothing to do with any credible reason for doing the war, creating a war. You can create a war on any false pretext, and then you could go in there and show your... the other phrase he has used, Donald Trump has, that we are... what was the phrase he used for Iran? We are loaded and ready. Loaded and ready. maybe you are loaded and ready, but that you would face the consequences of touching Iran. That's all I can say on air. Anyway, many issues are boggling my mind, and I'm losing hope with humanity, with democracy, with the leaders who are by the way, they're all super duper rich. They are, ordinary public's, position doesn't matter. But these guys have absolutely excessive amount of wealth who can do what they want to do it. So this is what the world has become, and unfortunately, the note on which 2026 have started is pretty disappointing. Should I say? There's no moral. There is no those who have military powers, those who have military might, they will continue to do what they like. So, at that note, I think I would be moving towards our third important element of the program, and that is the consolation. And the consolation is that a beautiful Indian songs that we play on this program.
किसी पे प्यार क्या जादू तेरा किस पे चला, होगा किसी दिन ये फैसला। वो घड़ी आएगी आएगी जाना, तूने अभी ये कहाँ जाना है, किसे जीना है और किसको मर जाना है। होगा तेरा आशिक जमाना, औरों का दिल होगा तेरा निशाना। नाज न कर यूं तीरे नजर पे, आए हमें भी तीर चलाना। जो है खिलाड़ी उन्हें खेल हम दिखाएंगे, अपने ही जाल में शिकारी फंस जाएंगे। वो घड़ी आएगी आएगी, वक्त आने पे तुझको ये समझाना है, किसे जीना है और किसको मर जाना है, किसे जीना है और किसको मर जाना है।
Camera Mayo, these are the hit songs of the 70s and 80s that I've chosen to start the programs, 80s and 90s, in fact. And I'll be staying with them for a few more songs before the times runs out. But because of the fact that these are things, locally speaking, what's going on here in Dublin, I would like to tell you about that. Quite a few cultural events are taking place. Obviously, the 26th of January is coming up, and I would be happy to report the republicanism and nationalism and all that is related to the 26th of many functions, many cultural functions that I get invited as a chief guest and attend the programs and things like that. That will happen in the next few weeks, in fact. So this is what is happening in the month of January. Month of January is related to many things. In fact, a lot of people are obviously, apart from the fact that it's a month of short days and winter and extreme weather that we are going to face. So far, we escaped the worst one. In fact, the one in neighbouring Northern Ireland, in fact, and other countries, we have had a heavy snow and all that. We have escaped so far, but we are not going to escape January, February. Even March can be very bad. So weather is something impact people. You stay indoors, you burn fire logs if you have a live fire and all that, and everything related to the winter. The one thing when winter happens that people hibernate and read. So if you're reading a very interesting book or whatever, do share with me, and I will be talking about that, because I'm reading quite a lot of interesting books on the fact that they are the food for the thoughts. They are food for the brain, and reading something interesting can bring you to another world. They say that the writers are the most luckiest people in the world who can sit down and just write. I'm tinkering with this idea for quite some time, but time is against me. I do not get time between the jigs and the reel and between running the life and the world and this program. In fact, quite a lot of time goes into it. So, but I'm thinking very seriously about it, and hopefully we will be discussing the art of writing, that how a writer should be writing something. It doesn't matter what you write, but you should write, whether it's poetry, whether it's prose, whether it's anything, you must write, because when you write it down, your thoughts get focused on that particular issue, and that particular issue is something that, gets eventually published and goes out in the big bad world for public to react and people to react. Now, this business of people I've been thinking about it for recently, that is it a good thing to interact with people too much, or it is a good thing to retract and hibernate and do not interact with humans too much, because and most of the times humans do disappoint people with their negative thoughts, with their negative comments, with their negativity overall. And I have decided this is my resolution, by the way. In fact, that has started over the last year, but this year is going to be firm, sticking to it, that I am not going to talk to or be in contact with people who have, only negative comments to make about people, things, and, they have nothing positive to talk about it. So negativity affects your own self, affects your life, affects your thinking. And if you're negative about something, if you don't have anything positive to talk about it, then don't talk, or otherwise walk away from that person, or cut him off, block him off, with your phone and things like that. So because, nothing like receiving a bad context material in your WhatsApp message or whatever. So simply block it, and you'll be far better off dealing with people, talking to people who respect you, who love you, and who have positive things about the world and world affairs, in fact. Yes, the issue is the global world affairs is beyond common man's reach. You and I, the listeners and the producer of this program, and the contributors of this program are ordinary people. We have no power. We are at not pedestal of hierarchy of presidents, prime ministers, and even the ministers, even the councillors. We're not at that level. We are not politicians. The politicians supposed to work for the betterment of society, but time and again we have seen and proven that that is not the case. They work against the people. People get screwed. People get, how do I say? They get hammered. They get, and you stomach it. So the only consolation you can say that you are living in a country which is reasonably fair country. If the country is not fair, then you suffer. You simply suffer. And where do you go? You move. You become immigrant. I have some immigrant stories that I would like to make films, particularly Plain Sailing. Plain Sailing was a movie that I wrote a few years ago on the plight of 16 destitute people who came to Ireland on a boat from Greece, in fact. They sailed from Karachi or Afghanistan to Turkey, and from Turkey to Greece, and from Greece to Ireland. And yours truly was being invited to evaluate who they were and to become the translator of the whole case that was decided whether they are genuine asylum seekers or they were just, a bunch of dangerous people. And as is proven that they were asylum seekers, they spent huge amount of money. They paid something like $20,000 each to this scrupulous character based in Turkey, a Pakistani businessman. And indeed, he shipped over them to Ireland, not knowing where they're going, where Ireland was. They just be on the ship as a crew members. So I'm going to make a movie on that if I can. And then how do I make a movie? If you know anybody who has expertise in making movies, let me know. And I'll be the first one to call them and to discuss the projects. Not one, two, but several projects that I have. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular song that I've chosen. And hopefully you will like the song that I'm going to play now. जी मेरे भाइयों कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि what I always say that sometime it happens that people are deeply fall in love and it feels like if you are really falling in love with somebody in a deep way that you feel like that you are going to die if you don't get that person or that love back from that person. Anyway, so this is it, and 1 minute left, and I'm really like to play another song before I say goodbye to you. And thank you very much indeed for listening to the very first program of the 2026. And I shall be back next same time, same place next week. And relax and enjoy the new year and the cold weather, should I say, just if there is a such thing like enjoying the cold weather. Anyway, bye for now. And once again, thank you very much for those who have contributed to the program. And indeed, we shall continue to soldier on, as they say. Bye for now.